The style of music in the classical period has been held up to the ages as one of simplicity, grace, and form. We can see the style mature in the works of Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven. I have talked about the history of all three of these composers and how their daily lives interacted with their compositional activities. I will link them in the description box below. Past the trials and tribulations of everyday life, these three composers gave life to a new form of music that was a major break from the style of the Baroque. We will investigate what makes the classical style in this video. There are three aspects of music that change depending on the time period of the composer: melody, harmony, and rhythm. The union of these three aspects gives us a fourth: form, or the way a work is written. Each category faced an immense change in the time leading up to the classical period, 1730 to 1820. Let's trace the starting point of classical style by looking at the style of music written in the late Baroque. Baroque music was known for having one affect or emotion through a whole piece of music. This was expressed by a long, running melody that was given primarily to one voice. Other voices in the work could imitate the primary voice, but never compete for prominence. Let's take a look at the beginning of Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier, Book Number 1, Number 3 in C-sharp major. The fugue starts off with the theme, and the counter theme, a bunch of running 16th notes, comes in directly after. Most of the melody is focused on the dynamic presentation between the melody and the counter melody. They run together, and we feel no breaks in the stream of melody. This helped the piece express one affect or emotion, since the melody did not change. Let's listen to the opening of that work now. One of the other things that is seen in the Baroque works is the lack of strong tonal movement. Works, like the fugue we just listened to, move from chord to chord following the tonal system, focusing on the smallest level of tonality, the chord change. It does not have a higher level of tonal shift to it, but instead stays in one key. Classical music, on the other hand, is all about periodicity in melody. Melodies of the time period express themselves in 2, 4, or 6 bar phrases with a distinct beginning, middle, and end. Some have question and answer orientation, where the second phrase seems to answer a question posed by the first phrase. The phrases of melody are distinct instead of running together. The melody was supported by chordal figures, sometimes in 16th or 8th notes in the background. This lent prominence to the melody that was not seen in the Baroque period. Let's look at the opening of Mozart Symphony No. 40. The symphony opens with an 8th note pattern in the violas, acting as a heartbeat. The first and second violins join in with the melody, first going up, then going down, balancing both halves of the melody. The melody then repeats the 4-bar phrase, leading into cadential material that brings in the winds. The section ends with a dramatic repeated chord in the strings, balancing against held notes in the woodwinds. This entire structure is balanced on the micro level by the half phrase and on the macro level by the section. Compared to the continuous running of the Bach, Mozart's theme is sent off in a sparkling manner, completely clear to the listener. Let's listen to it now. The tonal movement of the opening section of the Mozart also uses larger strokes than the Bach. The section is all in the tonic key, G minor, and doesn't move around very much on the chord by chord level. The key does not shift until the second theme in E flat major. Like many classical symphonies, the first movement of the Mozart is in the Sonata Form. If you'd like an explainer on the Sonata Form, I will link my video in the eye and in the description box below. Sonata Form focuses on the contrast of key. The first theme is in the tonic or home key, and the second is in the dominant or the key based on the fifth scale degree. This sets up a tension between the sections that is worked out in the development section. The recapitulation, the last section, has both themes in the original tonic key, bringing the conflict to a close. One of the other aspects of the Sonata Form is the fact that it sets up a system where the affect or emotion can change in the piece. One theme can be happy and the other sad, or vice versa. In the Mozart, the first theme is in minor and the second theme is in major. This ability to change the affect during the course of the music is a big change from the single affect works of the Baroque. The battle of tonal centers set up in the Sonata Form also sets up a battle in affect. Variety and contrast become part of the nature of classical style music, with composers stretching themselves to create the greatest contrast in a single work. One major aspect we haven't spoken about yet is rhythm. The rhythm of classical style works is not totally different than the works in the Baroque, but its importance has changed. Music of the classical period mainly uses homophonic textures, melody plus accompaniment, but with some use of counterpoint, where two or more melodic lines are combined. Counterpoint, as we saw in the Bach, was a major component of the totality of the work. A fugue, which is the form that was used, is all about the use of counterpoint to work out the theme in the maximum number of voices. That's what a fugue is. In classical works, counterpoint is shrunk to the level of accompaniment, never outpacing the melody. Another change from the Baroque to the classical period is the overall impression of the music. Baroque music focused on dignified seriousness and impressive grandeur when writing works. Most works are impressive in scope, whether on the organ or for a full orchestra. The classical period had more adventures with style, some grandiose, but other times sad, funny, or just beautiful. Balance and lightness were a focus of the classical period, and through that, a range of emotions were portrayed. The classical period, on the surface, was focused on a few characteristics: an emphasis on elegance and balance, short, well-balanced melodies and clear-cut question and answer phrases, simple diatonic harmony, homophonic textures, melody plus accompaniment, but with some use of counterpoint, where two or more melodic lines are combined, and the use of contrasting moods. These are just surface concerns for a true focus on tonality. The concept of Western tonality was firmly established at the beginning of the classical period, and composers played with the ideas contained within during this period. The Sonata Form, with its contrasting key areas, became a vehicle for this experimentation. Works could be seen as an investigation into the keyness of a key area, with composers bending rules to see how far they could take them. This pattern continued in the Romantic period, the next period, and the Modern period until tonality broke with the atonal compositions of the Second Viennese school. The music of Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven embodied the exploration of tonality throughout the period. Charles Rosen, in his book Classical Style, posits that it is only the works of these composers that we see the true classical style, that other composers did not grasp the true meaning of the classical period because they did not have as a refined sense of tonality as the three greats. You can explore his ideas about the classical style in his book. It's a dense read, but illuminating. Thank you for joining me in this video about classical style. I love doing these videos and learn so much in the process. I hope you've learned something as well. You can support the making of these videos on Patreon. I'll leave the link in the description box below. Patreon support is so important because I can't monetize my videos due to the musical examples. You can find my bibliography on my website, also linked below. Thank you so much, and see you in my next video.